Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of not just AEW Dynamite this week, but also NXT's Halloween Havoc special. I'm covering both shows tonight. I will be starting with Halloween Havoc, so if you want to hear my thoughts on AEW and you're not interested in NXT, maybe shut off this video for 15-20 minutes or so. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Good evening, Jeremy Dorset and everybody else. Thank you for tuning in live. And thank you to everybody watching this on demand. I have a lot to say about both shows, so let's go ahead and get started. We kicked off NXT with a video package hyping up all the matches. We had Shotzi Blackheart, who was the special host for this event, and she was looking great, by the way. Shotzi really did a fantastic job in this role. She's just a natural at it. Definitely see big things for her in the future. She just has that star presence to her. And we saw that with a lot of people on this show. I have to hand it to WWE production. These talents came off like major superstars. We had our first match, which was Damien Priest defending the North American Championship against Johnny Gargano. We had this guitarist. I did not catch his name, but this guy played guitar for Damien Priest's entrance. And like I said, Damien came off like a major superstar with this entrance. I loved it. And then when Johnny Gargano came out, we got it, guys. They did a special set for the Halloween Havoc show. We had tombstones and all sorts of different props set up in the Capitol Wrestling Center. When Gargano came out, though, we had the inflatable pumpkin. We had the Halloween Havoc pumpkin from the grand old days, although this one was not quite as intimidating looking, but we got the inflatable pumpkin, so I was happy about that. But then Gargano, the heel that he is, he popped it. He popped the inflatable pumpkin. Heel move of the year, in my opinion. That was awesome. That was an epic heel moment, if I must say so. We had Shotzi spin the wheel because the theme, because it's Halloween Havoc, was spin the wheel, make the deal. She did the wheel spinning, and it landed on a Falls Count Anywhere match. Devil's Playground, as they called it. But basically, they could fight anywhere, pin the other guy anywhere in the building. They brawled all over the place. They even fought by the stage, and at one point, Damien rolled up Johnny in the remains of the pumpkin, and they ended up with a standoff. They each had their own weapon. Gargano had a kendo stick, and Damien had his trusty baton. After the commercial, they ended up fighting in the backstage area. They were fighting by the garage door, and then they ended up fighting back into the arena, and they ended up fighting on this other part of the stage, which is where the spin the wheel is. There's a platform there. They fought up onto the top of this platform, and as they were fighting, all of a sudden we had Ghostface from the Scream movies show up and attack Damien Priest with a pipe. Priest was about to hit the reckoning at the top of this platform, but Ghostface with the pipe took out Priest and then handed Gargano a tombstone. Gargano broke the tombstone over Priest's head, and Priest ended up falling off the platform into a crypt. He fell through this crypt, and then Gargano came down and pinned Priest to become the new North American champion. This was so much fun. I thought this was an awesome match. I love the Halloween props. You know, it definitely was a throwback to WCW. I remember like Kevin Sullivan and Chris Benoit having those Falls Count Anywhere matches. I know I mentioned Chris Benoit. But you had those kind of matches, and in WCW, they would fight with the props. I remember those matches, like for Bash at the Beach, they would fight with the props and everything. So I thought that this was great. I love this match. Gargano wins the title with the interference. But hey, I liked it, and we now have the mystery. Who is Ghostface? Who is wearing the mask? Who is behind that attack? TJS. Tyler with a $3 super chat, first one of the evening. Thank you for that, Tyler. Says, watching AEW now, but NXT was an A+. I have zero gripes. Do I agree with TJS? You guys will have to wait and see what I say as we go through this review. I already have my letter grade, by the way, but I'll let you guys talk about it in the chat room and guess as to what you think it is. Great match here to kick off the show. Felt like a pay-per-view quality match. And then we had Vic Joseph and Wade Barrett at ringside talking about the rest of the show. We had Vic Joseph dressed up as Waldo from Where's Waldo. And Wade Barrett, he just kept it simple. He was Bad News Barrett. That was cool. Hey, why not? Why not be Bad News Barrett? A little bit of nostalgia. I liked it. We had Pat Mcafee come out for a promo. And he talked about how he had the greatest debut in wrestling history. He was out there with his guys, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, the new NXT Tag Team Champions. He said that he did make the greatest debut in wrestling history, and even the internet wrestling community idiots would agree. He actually mentioned the internet wrestling community. How about that? He called Adam Cole a bum and said that he wanted to take care of Cole himself, but he was so busy. He has the hottest podcast in the world, and he's doing all these different things. So he hired somebody to take out Adam Cole, Ridge Holland, somebody who hasn't really been given an opportunity yet. Mcafee wanted to give him, or Mcafee, excuse me. I always think of Mcafee because I'm an idiot. Mcafee said that he wanted to give Ridge Holland a chance, an opportunity, because Holland has been overlooked. And then, unfortunately, Holland fractured his leg in 700 pieces, as Mcafee pointed out. He said that his T's and P's, thoughts and prayers, are with Holland. And then he talked about how he struck a money deal with Lorcan and Burch. And that's when Kyle O'Reilly of the Undisputed Era came out to confront Mcafee and his group. And all of a sudden, big surprise here, Pete Dunn made his return to NXT. First time we've seen him in WWE NXT since the pandemic started. He was overseas. He finally made it back to the US, and he's lost a ton of weight. He's shredded. He looks great. He had a couple of chairs. He handed one of the chairs to O'Reilly, but Vince Russo swerved, bro. He used the steel chair on Kyle O'Reilly and joined up with Pat Mcafee, Oney Lorcan, and Danny Burch. Dunn did his joint manipulation and ended up stomping the arm of poor O'Reilly, stomped his arm into the mat, or into the steel chair, I should say. And the whole group of them celebrated a new dangerous alliance, as WWE put it. You know, another Halloween Havoc reference. Love the heel turn. Love seeing Pete Dunne back, and I think the heel turn is right for him. With Matt Riddle on the main roster now, you might as well do something different with Dunn. I like it, and maybe we'll get War Games at some point. Undisputed Era as faces against Pat McAfee's group. Yeah, great segment here. I loved Pat's promo. Loved the Pete Dunne heel turn. Good stuff. Good shit, pal. We had Cameron Grimes, who was being basically forced by William Regal to get into a van to travel to this undisclosed location for the haunted house match against Dexter Lumis. But as Grimes was in the parking lot coming up to the van, Michael P.S. Hayes popped out of the van, making a little cameo appearance. And then we have these blue lights inside the van. Grimes, Grimes got into the van and drove off to the undisclosed location. We had Jake Atlas facing Santos Escobar, challenging Escobar for the Cruiserweight Championship. And you had the members of Legado del Fantasma out there at ringside. They interfered in the match. They were wearing face paint, by the way, so they were keeping up with the Halloween theme of this show. And then there was another guy with a mask on. I think they said it was Mendoza. One of them headbutted Atlas with the mask when the referee was distracted, and then Escobar hit his finisher and picked up the win to retain his Cruiserweight Championship. Calvin Bowman, Aaron, was you, Jason, in the mask on the No DQ review? Oh, no, that was not me. But by the way, thank you to Jason Voorhees for filling in for me. That was the real Jason Voorhees from Camp Crystal Lake that filled in, by the way. And we had a Ember Moon video package talking about Dakota Kai. They have a match set up for next week's show. And then we had our Haunted House of Terror cinematic match, which was basically like a horror movie. You had Marilyn Manson, his song Don't Chase the Dead was played as the background music. Grimes was wandering around, walking up to the house. He was scared, terrified. You had Dexter Lumis hiding in a tree watching him. And then Grimes went into the house. Lumis was in a room and he opened the door. He kept spying on poor Grimes, stalking him, I should say. And then there was a referee with his back turned. He was in the corner, and Grimes tried to get the referee's attention. The referee turned around. The referee was just completely possessed and crazy. Grimes freaked out. Lumis attacked him. And basically the story of this match was Grimes kept trying to get away from Lumis, and Lumis broke a door like Jason from Friday the 13th, trying to keep coming at Grimes. And then Grimes went into this room. There was a shower. I guess he was in the bathroom. There was this woman's, not reflection, but her silhouette in the shower. And Grimes was like, all of a sudden he was focused on the woman. He wanted to get in the shower with this woman, but then he pulled back the curtain, and it was some demon woman, a zombie, I think they called her. And she spooked him. He ran off. And then he went by this window. And again, like Friday the 13th, you had Dexter Lumis breaking through the window, trying to grab him. And finally, you had Grimes escape the house. He got into the van, but Lumis was in the driver's seat again, like Friday the 13th or Halloween. And finally, you had Grimes just running away, and there was a little text message on the screen that said, "To be continued." This was fun. This was very entertaining. It fit the Halloween theme of the show. I liked it. I liked the Dexter Lumis thing. It was perfect for Dexter Lumis. And Cameron Grimes being the scaredy cat, it worked. It really worked for me. Very entertaining stuff. We had Ria Ripley versus Raquel Gonzalez in a one-on-one match. They shoved each other. They traded some blows. They got into a hockey fight. Gonzalez picked up Ripley and powerbombed her into the outside fence barrier that's at ringside. After the commercial break, Ripley made her comeback. She attempted the riptide off the top rope, but Gonzalez ended up picking her up and slamming her down to the mat. But then Ripley made a comeback, hit the riptide to pick up the win. Solid match here between the ladies. I enjoyed it. They cut back to Cameron Grimes running down the street, I guess running back towards the arena. And then we had maybe my favorite part of the evening, just for the nostalgia. We had Drake Maverick dressed up as Hollywood Hogan, and he was talking to the female interviewer, calling her Mean Gene Okerlund, which he was offended by. Then we had a guy dressed up as the Giant. Big Show from WCW. He appeared, and then from behind, the Yeti. Yes, the Yeti. So we had Halloween Havoc 1995 recreated with the Yeti and the Giant doing the double bear hug to poor Drake Maverick, and then the Shockmaster showed up just because it's WCW. You got to have the Shockmaster. Shockmaster turned out to be Killian Dane. Drake Maverick grabbed the mask, the helmet, I should say. He put it on, and then, of course, it's like a curse. You put on the Shockmaster helmet, and you're clumsy. Drake Maverick immediately tripped as soon as he put that Shockmaster helmet on. This was very funny. I enjoyed it. I'm sure the old school wrestling fans will appreciate that segment very much if they check it out. We had Cameron Grimes coming back into the arena. He was by this graveyard set, and these zombie women were stalking him. He got into the ring. Loomis was behind him, and Loomis attacked him. Smoke filled up in the ring, and Loomis picked up one of the zombies, threw the zombie onto Grimes, and then he did his submission. He put Grimes to sleep, I guess, officially winning this match. And then as Loomis walked away, the zombies came into the ring to finish the job, and the lights went out. So I guess poor Cameron Grimes, victim of Dexter Loomis and the zombies. And then we had the end pop up on the screen. Again, I loved this. I thought this was great. Perfect usage of Dexter Loomis for the Halloween theme, and great job to have not Dexter Loomis, but have Cameron Grimes as the scaredy person who's being stalked by this monster. Great stuff here. The Game is on 100 with a $5 super chat says, well, at least this Haunted House of Terror match was better than Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton House of Horror match from 3 years ago. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was very well done. Good stuff here. Good shit. We had a Tommaso Ciampa promo in the garage. He talked about Velveteen Dream. They have a match on next week's show, and he said he's never been handed anything, and he's the greatest sports entertainer of all time. And he said next week, Velveteen Dream is a dead man. Will he be as dead as Cameron Grimes, though? That remains to be seen. And then we had our main event, Candice LeRae challenging Io Shirai for the NXT Women's Championship. We had this singer Poppy do the intro for Io Shirai, but I think the microphone was having an issue, technical difficulties, but the music and the lights and everything, Io looked like a major star. Like I said earlier, the entrances, she came off like a huge superstar here. We had Shotzi Blackheart spin the wheel one more time, and the match landed, or the wheel landed on TL Scares, which is basically tables, ladders, and chairs. And like a ladder match, TLC match, the object to win is to climb the ladder and grab the championship. We had black and orange ladders, so nice little touch there. A lot of little things that they did. They really put a lot of love into this NXT show. Colin Andrew, by the way, thinks that Ghostface was Austin Theory. Hey, that's a good theory there, Colin Andrew, I gotta say. So we had this TLC match, the tables, ladders, and scares match. We had some body parts that were out there. Io Shirai was using them. Candice set up a ladder bridge on the outside. Remember this later. Io brought some chairs into the ring, and then Io went for a moonsault, but she missed and landed on the chairs. She brought the chairs into the ring. She ends up landing on them. And Candice started using the chair, and then Io took one of the chairs, set it up properly, and then suplexed Candice onto the chair. That looked pretty brutal. And then Io went for the double knees, but she missed and crashed into a ladder that was set up. Lots of craziness in this match. Io even took Candice's foot at one point and wrapped the chair into her foot and then twisted the chair. I've never seen that spot in the ladder match in WWE before, so we're getting some innovative stuff here from the ladies. Pretty pretty interesting to see them coming up with new things after all these years. I always appreciate that. Whenever they can come up with something new in a ladder match that I haven't seen, I'm definitely impressed. There were 2 tables set up on the outside of the ring. Candice ended up putting Io through both of the tables. Now, I must have missed it. Who set up those tables? Maybe the chat room can help me out on this. Just by the typical pattern here, I would say it was Io that set up the tables because she went through them. But if that wasn't the case, let me know, chat room. And after Candice put Io through the tables, Ghostface returned. Ghostface grabbed Candice and brought her into the ring, set up the ladder, had Candice climb up the ladder. But then we had Shotzi Blackheart get in the ring, and she attacked Ghostface. And then Io Shirai got back into the ring. She set up her own ladder. They both climbed their respective ladders. Candice ended up knocking Io off the ladder, but Io got back up. She pushed the ladder with Candice on it. Candice fell over the top and fell through the ladder bridge, which, yes, she did set up, and she got put through it. Io Shirai then grabbed the championship and retained her NXT Women's title. Excellent main event here. Pay-per-view quality match here from the ladies. The whole show was a pay-per-view quality show. I love how they went all out as far as the props and everything for Halloween Havoc. A very well thought out show. A lot of love and attention put into it. I'm going to go ahead and say this was arguably the best wrestling TV show of the year. This was a takeover quality show. And I really think, like, just as a standalone wrestling free television show, this was maybe the best one. Like, I cannot think of a better show this year. I almost never do this, so you know I'm considering this top tier. I am giving this show an A+. A+ show. Like, I don't think I could have put together a better show. The only thing maybe I would have done differently, I would have liked to have seen Candice win the title just so her and Johnny could be husband and wife champions, but it's not that big of a deal. I love the show. I recommend watching the whole thing. Luis Ortiz gives it an A+. Kev gives it an A+. Michael Wayne with an A+. Michael Gonzalez with an A+. Game is on 100 with an A+. Amanda with an A+. Dr. NXT Scorpio with an A. And Lars gives NXT an A+ as well. And John Bear Gaming says it would have been an A++++ in the Tokyo Dome. Definitely, like I said, check it out. All right, let's move on here to AEW and talk about Dynamite. We kicked off, this was a taped show, by the way. They taped it, I believe, last Thursday night. We had MJF and Wardlow interviewed about the tournament. Wardlow was scheduled to face Hangman Adam Page, and MJF said if Wardlow wins the title, MJF will be the new champion. And Wardlow agreed, but did not sound super down with this idea. And Sammy Guevara appeared and told MJF to cut the shit. MJF said he thought that they were pals, but Sammy said no, they're not pals. And then MJF made fun of Sammy, saying that he looks like a guy that sells Adderall to middle schoolers. And Sammy was very upset about this, got in his face. And then we had Wardlow and MJF come out for the match. Wardlow versus Adam Page. Winner goes on to Full Gear. They brawled on the outside for a while. Wardlow dominated most of it. Page did make a comeback, though. He did this top rope moonsault to the outside, which he's done many times, one of his signatures. Wardlow hit the F10, which he picked up the victory with last week, but Page managed to roll to the outside of the ring, and then Page got back in, hit the buckshot lariat. Wardlow did not go down with the first one, so he had to hit a second one, and then he scored the 1-2-3 victory over a very game Wardlow. And big surprise, Adam Page advances to Full Gear. Next up, we had, let me get to my notes here. We had Jon Moxley cut a video promo, talked about how there's no room in AEW for somebody like Eddie Kingston. There's only room for athletes that do the work. And as Moxley was talking about this, we had clips of Eddie Kingston praying. And Moxley said that after Eddie Kingston quits, all he's going to have left is his ego. And Moxley said one of the things he crushes are egos. Pretty good promo here from Moxley. We had Eddie Kingston come to the ring, and he got on the mic and said he wants to fight, but Moxley is sitting at home. Eddie called Moxley a coward and called out Matt Seidel. We had Matt Seidel versus Eddie Kingston. Seidel got some of his high-flying moves in, got a couple of near falls, but in the end, Kingston hit a spinning back fist, and then he put Moxley's own bulldog choke on Seidel to score the submission victory, and he would not let go. After the match was over, he kept it on, and basically he told Seidel to quit. He referred to Seidel as Moxley and told him to quit. Seidel did, and I guess you could say Kingston has built up some momentum for his match with Jon Moxley at Full Gear. We had FTR and the Young Bucks, a face-to-face segment. They were in different locations, though. Excalibur was with the Bucks, and he was asking questions back and forth. Matt Jackson said his ankle is fine, and Dax Harwood said that this match will cement, whichever team wins, it will cement their legacy as the greatest tag team of all time. Matt talked about super kicking people and being heels, but said that they're not proud of their actions. However, they have no regrets because they needed an edge. They needed a spark. And now the old Bucks are back, and they have the killer instinct, and they are ready to fight. So I guess for those of you wondering why they were acting like heels, they just needed to get their edge back. That's all. Matt then said that their backs are against the wall, and they talked about how they rose up from the very bottom in Southern California, and then they added a stipulation to this match. They said if they lose at Full Gear against, if they do not successfully win the titles, I guess, if they unsuccessfully win the titles, is that okay? His exact words were, if we don't successfully win the titles, they will never challenge for the tag team titles again. Pretty much the same stipulation that Cody had last year, where if he failed to win the AEW World title, he will not challenge for it again. Now, will history repeat itself? Will the Bucks lose and then never compete for the tag titles again? Makes me think maybe they're going to win. I guess we'll see. I'm sure we'll be doing predictions for Full Gear, and we'll talk about that in more detail then. D. Ross 2 says, did AEW back themselves into a corner? Not if the plan is for the Bucks to win, which I'm feeling that's what's going to happen at this point. I mean, they've failed to win the titles now for the past year. I think they got to win it, right? And plus, there's no secondary tag team titles to chase for. See what I did there? We had the town hall meeting with Chris Jericho and MJF to talk about MJF possibly joining the group. Tony Schiavone and Dasha Fuentes were hosting. We had various people asking questions. Luchasaurus asked a question to MJF about how would he help the Inner Circle, and MJF talked about how if he was with the Inner Circle, earnings would skyrocket. He had a chart which showed him just going straight up after joining Inner Circle, and the earnings just taking a complete spike, total spike. Britt Baker asked Jericho about MJF's past, how MJF has turned on all of his friends, and Jericho said, well, he's not a dipshit like Cody, so he kind of understands MJF turning against Cody. Peter Avalon asked about joining the Inner Circle, and Jericho quickly shot him down. Hey, at least Avalon shot his shot, right? And then we had another question from Eric B., who, of course, was Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff asked, what can MJF do for the Inner Circle? It's not so much about what the Inner Circle can do for MJF, but what can MJF do for them? And MJF had one word: friendship. And then Bischoff said, how are they going to not kill each other if they were working together? MJF started getting mad at the questions, and Jericho, he wanted to know the answer. He said that, how does he know that MJF is not going to stab the Inner Circle in the back? And MJF started talking about how he's done all these things for Jericho already, gave Jericho the best segment of his career, the singing segment from last week. And MJF said, what hasn't he done for Jericho already? And Jericho says, MJF has never beaten him. That's one thing MJF hasn't done. And Jericho basically challenged MJF to a match at the Full Gear pay-per-view. And if MJF wins, he's in the Inner Circle. MJF said he'll do whatever it takes. Ortiz and Sammy said that they do not want MJF in the group. And they challenged MJF and Wardlow to a match on next week's show. Segment was good, but I think it went on a little bit too long. And considering this was a taped show, I think maybe they could have edited down a little bit. Who knows? Maybe they did edit it down a bit. But yeah, it felt like a really long segment. I think they could have made this a few minutes shorter. But still entertaining stuff from these guys. But yeah, it felt like I was talking there for a long time, and I tried to sum it up as much as I could. We had Cody versus Orange Cassidy for the TNT title in a lumberjack match. And Mike B with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Mike B. He says, here's a super chat to get the two awesome no DQ cats, Casey and Sassy, some treats. Appreciate that, Mike B. And if you guys want to check out some fun cat videos after this, head over to my personal channel, youtube.com/AaronRift. So anyways, Orange Cassidy was taking things seriously. He teased doing the hands in the pocket, but instead he went right after Cody, and things started breaking down early on the outside. Trent took a shot at Cody at one point, and you had the three-way hug with the best friends and Orange Cassidy. And then after the commercial break, there was more chaos. Everybody started fighting on the outside, and then as this was happening, Cody superplexed Orange Cassidy off the top all the way down onto the lumberjacks. And back in the ring, Cody hit a Cody cutter, which OC kicked out of. And then Orange hit a diving DDT. He got a near fall. At this point, we had the Dark Order get into the ring, and John Silver hit a pump kick to Orange Cassidy. Cody apparently did not see this, but nonetheless, you got to do what you got to do to win a match. Cody grabbed Orange Cassidy, hit the crossroads, and retained his TNT title. There was a huge brawl afterwards. Everybody got in the ring, and they were all fighting. Darby Allin was in the cheap seats watching this. He's facing Cody at the pay-per-view. Billy and Austin Gunn cleared the ring, and Cody was paying attention to this, so I guess we're finally going to see something with Billy and his son in AEW. They're going to finally be getting into the mix. They've pretty much just been part of the crowd since this pandemic started. Backstage, we had Miro and Kip Sabian confronting the Best Friends. They said they forgive the Best Friends for breaking the video arcade machine. But then it was a swerve. It was a double cross. Miro and Kip beat the crap out of the Best Friends. And Miro said he's not sorry and he's never going to forgive Trent for breaking that video game arcade. Yawn. That's my take on this. I guess they're having a match next week. Don't really care at this point. Serena Deeb had a match against Did I get her name down? Layla Hirsch, I believe was her name. Serena Deeb won the NWA Women's Championship during the United Wrestling Network event last night. And this was not in the spoilers, so AEW must have taped this afterwards. Serena Deeb said in a promo, a pre-taped promo, she said that the championship's legacy is in her hands, and it's a moment that has changed the game in women's wrestling. Pretty competitive match here between the two of them. They talked about how Serena Deeb got on an airplane and flew right to Jacksonville to do this match, fresh off of winning the championship. Deeb won a competitive match via submission. At this point, it feels like the NWA title is getting more attention than the AEW Women's Championship. Speaking of the AEW Women's Championship, we had Akira Shida interviewed backstage about Nyla Rose, and basically Shida accepted a match with Nyla Rose at the Full Gear pay-per-view for the championship. But let's be real here. The real match we want to see is Serena Deeb against Shida, champion versus champion. And by the way, this match was right around 9:20, 9:30, pretty much the usual time slot it's in. Well, not really. It was a little bit earlier than usual. Now, there was a match that was taped. Abaddon got injured. It was her versus Ty Conti, and Abaddon got injured in that match, and they had to completely pull that match from the show, and I'm guessing the Serena Deeb thing was put in that place. They also had Shawn Spears come out, and this was apparently not originally scheduled for Dynamite. This was due to the injury. They had Shawn Spears come out, win a squash match, and then afterwards there was somebody in a bull mask throwing candy at Shawn Spears. So we had a little bit of a Halloween moment on this show. Not much, really. Definitely not as much as NXT. Spears grabbed this guy and brought him into the ring, but as it turns out, it was Scorpio Sky. Scorpio and Spears have their own little feud going on AEW Dark, apparently. There hasn't really been much focus put towards it on Dynamite. And then we had our main event, Kenny Omega versus Pentagon. Penta Zero, whatever his name is now. You had the sweepers, the women coming out there with the brooms, and they were wearing Lucha Brothers masks. Kenny got his big intro again. And Omega even brought out the AAA championship that he won from Penta just to mentally screw with him. We had Rey Fenix at ringside. Phoenix, of course, beat Penta last week, but he was pulled from the match due to injury. Penta got the spot instead. Lots of back and forth with these two. Good main event. They taunted each other. Penta hit a destroyer out on the staging area on the ramp. He got Omega back in the ring, hit a package pile driver, got a near fall, and then he went after Omega's arm, but then Omega made a comeback, hit a knee to the face, and then hit the one-winged angel to pick up the win. No real surprise here. We all pretty much knew this was going to be the outcome, especially when Page won his match. It's like, maybe there was a chance we were going to get Wardlow versus Omega, but they've been building up Page and Omega now for, a year plus. So this was pretty obvious that this was going to be the outcome. Omega wins. It's him versus Page at the pay-per-view. A good show overall. I mean, it was a good Dynamite. I would probably give it a B. Solid show, very entertaining. Definitely not at NXT's level this week. I would say NXT easily won this week, but AEW put out a good product. Nice build for Full Gear. We got Jericho and MJF set up with a stipulation. We got the Young Bucks with their stipulation. We got Page and Omega set up. We got the women's title match set up. They did a lot to build up the pay-per-view, so that was a big positive. So yeah, solid B for me. Kev gives it a B. Dr. NXT Scorpio with a B. Israel Diaz with a B-, and Mr. Heavy Metal Hero Dude with a B-. So solid reviews there for AEW. Calvin Bowman gives it an A. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I appreciate your viewership and support. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and a like. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors. And I will see you guys next time.